Good afternoon. Welcome back to Passionate World Talk Radio, a wholly owned subsidiary of Global Media Network LLC. Educate, enlighten, and entertain. And let's not forget mindfulness. In this latest episode of Lest We Forget Historical, we are going to talk about America's founding fathers and what they thought about kings, since our current president has alluded to the fact that he is now a king. And I thought you would be amused or shocked, depending how you want to look at it. The other thing you may want to know is that I find it very disconcerting. Last year, my two granddaughters, who are about to graduate from high school this year, read a novel about Washington indeed becoming a king. And they wrote 3 books on it, so it must have been a fascinating subject. The story is by Miranda, Jeyarretnam, and it was updated on February 20th, 2025, but it was published on February 19th of this year, in case you want to look it up. It is said that our current president loves to give himself nicknames, in fact. Very stable genius. I'm sure Einstein would disagree. Honest Don. Well, I'm sure Tricky Nick would have a few things to say. And now the king. The latest title, however, does make one wonder where his mind is at. And let's not forget, he's older than Biden. And by the time if he does get a third term, he'll be well into his mid-90s. You really want to be governed by a feeble? I guess his wife could rule the way President Wilson's wife did, or former President Reagan's wife did. Wouldn't that be a hoot? Anyway, when Trump proclaimed victory over New York's new car traffic toll plan for Manhattan, he posted on Truth Central, "Congestion pricing is dead. Manhattan and all of New York is saved. Long live the king." Now, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff Taylor Budowich then posted on X a screenshot of his boss's post, juxtaposed with an AI image of the president in a crown with the New York skyline behind him. Did I mention that Manhattan will be the first to go underwater in about 5 years? Just saying. Anyway, social media accounts from the official White House spokesman also quoted their boss's post and shared an illustration of him in a crown with his name blazoned in place of a familiar looking magazine logo and the words, "Long live the king." Maybe he ought to talk to Charles over in England and find out how difficult it is, because after all, England has that pesky parliament that keeps them in check. The current president royalists has drawn criticism, including from Democrat New York Governor Kathy Hochul, who said in a statement, "We are a nation of laws, not if you believe you're above them or won't respond to whatever the courts order, not ruled by a king." And she added that New York hasn't labored under a king in over 250 years. We sure as hell are not going to start now. Republican Representative. It's hard to tell the difference between REP. It can mean anything these days. Democrat echoed Hochul's reminder, "We don't have kings in the USA." Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker reiterated Byers' words in his State of the State address, added, "My oath is to the Constitution of our state and our nation. We don't have kings in America, and I won't bend the knee to one." Some of the president's defenders claim the posts are harmless trolling, a reference flown over liberals' heads. "I'm going to be king of New York real estate. the president told his peers when he was in college. A classman recalled to the Boston Globe, yes, but he was in college then, so it could be considered brainless. But he's no longer in college, unless he's a perpetual child. His nickname is Peter Pan, and he lives in Never Never Land. No, he's now acting as President of the United States. The former organization executive Barbara Rest told the New York Daily News in 2021, the King of New York is back to reclaim the city that he built. No, his father built it, number one. His father was a slum landlord, number two. And number three, in the eyes of the law and in the financial sector, the current president has bailed out of more businesses. Should make Musk blush. Over the weekend, the current president posted a Napoleon-inspired statement suggesting he's above the law. He repeatedly teased the unconstitutional idea of serving a third term. And then in an interview alongside his advisor, Elon Musk, the South African, who now has 13 children, well, brainless 1 and brainless 13 makes a family of 14, no, 15 brainless people. Musk said, that means the will of the people is not being implemented, and that means we don't live in a democracy, we live in a bureaucracy. Well, Mr. Musk, please check the polling figures, because he is not at the will of the people. The will of the people have decided they've been fleeced by a used car salesman. Americans' founding fathers didn't envision the U.S. as a bureaucracy or a democracy. They envisioned it as a republic. REPUBLIC. Republic, to which it stands, one nation under God. That's the Pledge of Allegiance I learned as a child. Excuse me, did the president rewrite it with AI? To be sure, not every founding father was against the idea of authoritative executive branch leader. Some, like Alexander Hamilton, banking, argue in favor of a single executive rather than a group of people, which risks the danger of difference of opinion. Well, that's what a republic is all about, dumb knock. It's having a diversity opinion, not just one. I'm right, you wrong. That may work when you're 5 years old, but these guys are supposed to be above the legal age limit of 35, unless they're in arrested childhood development. Move over, Peter. We found a new explanation. Others believed, as Edmund Randolph put it, that a unitary executive would be the fetus of a monarchy. Amid public concerns that the crafters of the Constitution would create a monarchy, according to the University of Houston's Digital History Project, a Philadelphia newspaper outlined a separation of the different branches and what the president could do and not do. The president can only go so far, and then he's checked by the Senate and the Congress or the Supreme Court. But if you already filled it with all your cronies, it's a moot point, right? So we cannot affirmatively tell you what we are doing. We can negatively tell you what we are not doing. We never once thought of a king. The Constitution that resulted outlined a separation of powers between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches, serving together as a system of checks, yin and yang, and balances to prevent the kind of tyrannical rule that the colonies fought to free themselves from. So we're not going back to 1938 Germany. Hell no, we're going back all the way to the inception of the United States of America, which at that time only consisted of 13 colonies. And most of the country was still owned by the British, the Spanish, the French, and let's not forget the Soviet Union, who owned Alaska. There were many issues that the founding fathers disagreed on, but this was not one of them. Holly Brewer told ABC News last year. of the consensus that a president would not be effectively made an elected king. The American solution, summarized writer Richard Horowitz in an essay for Time in 2018, was, quote, an executive strong enough to be effective, but checked enough to prevent tyranny. Hear, hear, the Parliament of England. But even the founders realized that such a solution, as Horowitz put it, remains, unfortunately, dependent to some degree on the character of the president and the electorate that supports him. Well, we all know how this is going to end. When Benjamin Franklin was asked on the last day of the convention in 1787 whether the delegates had created a monarchy or a republic, he famously responded, quote, a republic, if you can keep it. I bet he was remembering his history and the Roman Republic. In 1814, John Adams, by then a former president, wrote that unchecked democracy can be just as pernicious as monarchy and never lasts long. It soon wastes, exhausts, and murders itself. There never was a democracy yet that did not commit suicide. It is in vain to say that democracy is less vain or less avaricious than aristocracy or monarchy. Absolute power intoxicates a lot, like despots, monarchs, aristocrats, and Republicans and Democrats. Adams also wrote, warning that dissatisfaction with the state of a government could give rise to a democratic public yearning for a strong man, i.e., he's talking about the Republicans, which did not exist. They were called Whigs then. They'll soon cry, this will not do. We have gone too far. We are all in the wrong. We are none of us safe. We must unite in some clever fellow, well, that's not the current president, who can protect us all. Caesar, Napoleon, Alexander, Hitler, Mussolini, Castro. Doesn't matter. They're all the same inside. Stalin. Who you will. Though we distrust, hate, and abhor them, yet we must submit to one or another of them. Stand by him, crying him up to the skies, and swear that he's the greatest, best, and finest man that ever lived. And incidentally, ladies, why does it always have to be a man? Couldn't it be a woman? Despot? I mean, even in the Lord of the Rings, they gave you several examples of women aspiring to be bigger and mightier than all the men in the kingdom. Think about it. I think Arwen would have made a terrific king, not to mention Gladderall. I think the two of them together could take over the world of man with no problems. Make the rest of those guys look like a bunch of sissies. But hey, that's my opinion. And that's what history is also all about, opinions. Thank you very much for joining me this afternoon. I want to give a shout out to all the hosts here at Passionate World Talk Radio Network. Betsy Werso, Chatting with Betsy. Dan Riley, sports commentary, and occasionally political commentary. Jeannie White, station manager, couldn't survive without her. Lillian Cauldwell, Scam Damnation, and lest we forget historical, and a new one, Ageless Wisdom, coming up towards the end of March, beginning of April. And let's not forget our latest service, Conscious Research Solutions, where hire us and we become your research assistants, whether you're a procrastinator, don't know how to put two and two together, don't know where to look, how to put your facts and figures together so they make sense. Basic research assistance. Contact us at pwrnetworkllc@gmail.com. Give us your name, your email. Yes, I know it's in the sender, but put it out anyway. We like things very detailed. and brought to our attention, and your cell phone number and a good time to call you, the first 15 minutes consult is free. That's where we get to know you. You tell us what you want. We tell you whether it's feasible. There's a contract. There's a form for you to fill out to be specific about what you want. Not in that form, you don't get it. What do you get? You get the research, you get the URLs or other places like a library or a periodical. You get all of that. You get keywords and key phrases and a summary of what we did. Go check it out on the website. You can find it under services, passionateworldtalkradio.com. Click on services. You'll be taken directly to the page. And there's a link for you to sign up for the 15-minute free consultation. This program is also sponsored by The Obstacles of Podcast Training. 8 weeks, 45 minutes, 20 minutes lecture, 20 minutes practical how-to, hands-on experience. Certified, yes. 3 episodes of a podcast, one for each week, to our audience of over 10 million, heard in 175 countries. Some of them we are presently aiming for war with. You would be amazed at the feedback. And let's not forget, check out our AI helper. Her name is Ruby, although I'm sure the guys will tell you his name is Rubart. But it's http://AI-with-Lillian.com. Take a look, take a demo, sign up for a monthly subscription. It pays enormously, and it's a no-brainer. AI has been let out of Pandora's box. It is not going to be stuffed in. So go with a winner and let the world know what you are talking about. Thank you very much for listening. And remember, to become successful in anything that you do, you must take a path of a giant. Have a great weekend.